Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Now let's give a warm welcome to our second speaker, Karen.
Hi everybody, I'm Karen Garrison and I'm an alcoholic. And it's through the grace of God and the power of Alcoholics Anonymous that I've been sober since May 30th, 1982, and that doesn't make me a miracle, it makes Alcoholics Anonymous a miracle. And if you're new here tonight, I want to welcome you to AA, and I always call it God's magnificent AA, the program that saved my life, and it's going to save yours too, if you want to take a few quick actions. And I suggest strongly that you get a sponsor tonight, that you get that book, Alcoholics Anonymous, and you get busy, do everybody else is doing around here, and you're going to stay sober as I've stayed sober for 17 years, and people like me cannot stay sober, I can guarantee you. My home group is the Pacific Group in West LA, a group I'm very, very proud to be a member of, just as I'm sure you're proud to be a member of yours, and I guess if you're not proud, you ought to get a job, and you might change your mind. I certainly have a job in mind, and I'm proud to have that job. I want to thank Tracy for inviting me. This is an honor and a privilege. It's one that I do not take lightly, I'll guarantee you. You guys, I love Alcoholics Anonymous, I really do, and I think that it shows, and I make an awful lot of mistakes, and I do an awful lot of things wrong. But I'll tell you one thing, that I love you, make no mistake about that. You know, I've been taught to do an awful lot of things before I ever wrote my big mouth, and one thing is to talk to my sponsor, and Clancy sends you his 11 very best wishes tonight, and if anybody in this room is wondering why I have a man for a sponsor and why I have Clancy for a sponsor, it's really quite simple. I did not get sober in California. I got sober in a place called Lincoln, Nebraska. It was just it's just a goddamn terrible place to get sober, if you want to know the truth. And I wasn't doing well in Alcoholics Anonymous in Nebraska. I went through 19 sponsors at a rapid clip, and I'm certainly not proud of this as I stand here tonight, and thank God for the old-timers in AA, because somebody loved me enough to get my current sponsor. And I got to tell you that my life has done nothing but totally, completely turn around as a result of that. And I absolutely adore the ground that man walks on. I talked to him this morning, as I do almost every single day of my life, and he said, "Where are you going now?" And I said, "Out to Malibu." And he said, "Well, get up there and share your experience, your strength, and your hope, and tell those people what it was like, what happened, what it's like now. Ignore the old-timers. They got it. They need your inspiration, my dear, and talk directly to those new people with the life and blood of AA." And I believe as I stand here tonight, and I welcome you, and I hope that you stay. And then I think I did, without a doubt, the most important thing I can ever do, and that's to say, "God, please help me say what you want me to say to these people." God is very much a part of my life tonight. You guys did not used to be that way for me, I can guarantee you. I come from an alcoholic hell. I cannot even describe it. It was so bad. And, you know, my life is real good today, and sometimes I forget how bad it was. And I can tell you the day I got sober, I weighed 95 pounds. I was the color of squash, had an alcoholic hepatitis, I had a liver cirrhosis, I had ruptured esophageal varices. And if you don't know what that stuff is, you don't want to, because you die from that kind of stuff. And I was standing on Skid Row in Lincoln, Nebraska, sucking on a bottle of Mad Dog. And if you guys haven't drank Mad Dog, I need to tell you it's not one of your finer wines, I can assure you. I'll guarantee you one thing, that crap has never seen a grape, make no mistake about that. And I literally could not believe what was going on in my life. I'd lost my children, I lost my husband twice. I don't really care about that, I want you to know. I'd lost my car, I'd lost my house, I destroyed every relationship I'd ever had with anybody. And I was clearly dying from alcoholism. And I lost the one thing that brought me my knees in this disease. I lost my nursing license. And you guys, I love my profession. It absolutely devastated me, but not stopped me from drinking. And there's a reason for that, and it's in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Because I have an obsession that somehow, someday, I will learn to control and enjoy my drinking. The persistent illusion is astonishing, just like our book talks about. Many of us pursue it in the gates of insanity and death. And I'll guarantee you one thing. I was in the gates of insanity. I got sober and almost into my coffin. And I cannot begin to tell you how grateful I am to be standing here 17 years sober, because I really should be dead, as you're soon going to hear about and stuff. But, you know, like I said earlier, my sobriety is May 30th, 1982. It was not always my sobriety date. When I got my current sponsor, I had to change my date, and there's a reason for that. I'm one of these people who had to go smoke dope when I got sober. And, you know, if you're smoking marijuana in this room now, you are not sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, I will tell you right this minute. And I don't want to argue about it afterwards. Ask any old-timers if you don't believe me. And if I have to change my date, then by God, so do you. But anyway. I got my current sponsor, and I tried to point out to him that where I'm from in Lincoln, Nebraska, you can have 2 sobriety dates, one from alcohol and one from drugs. And he pointed out to me that I was in Southern California. We have 1 date to get my date changed. And I was just smart ass when I got my current sponsor, and I said, where does the book mention pot? He said, well, the book does mention pot. And I said, Clancy, I have read that book. It does not talk about marijuana in that book. And he said, if I find the word pot in that book, will you change your sobriety? Never argue with me again. And I knew I was making a bad deal, you guys, but I did it anyway. And I'll be damned if he didn't flip open the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And on the first page of Bill Wilson's story, it says, died by musket or by pot. I said, that is not what that means. He said, quite frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn what it means. You said the book did mention pot. It does mention pot. Change your sobriety date. And my life has flourished, I got to tell you guys. But I'm just delighted to see that you don't have a glass podium where you can see your speaker. I had this terrible experience on the East Coast about 2 years ago. I was out there giving a talk, and right in the middle of my talk, my skirt fell off in front of 3,000 people. And you could literally see the speaker had this black suit on with this wraparound skirt, and the button came down. I thought, my God, my skirt's going to fall off. And it was too late. It was on the floor. But you guys, you know what? Alcoholics Anonymous has taught me to wear underwear, and thank God I had some on, I'll tell you. It's also taught me to take action. I just picked up that skirt and kept right on talking. What else are you going to do? But anyway. I come from Lincoln, Nebraska, and I come from a wonderful home, you guys. I want you to know that. And my mother wanted you to know it, too, I'll guarantee you that. My mom died 6 years ago, and I miss my mother so much I cannot begin to tell you. And my mom was always so proud her daughter was sober in Alcoholics Anonymous when she died. Although she did not believe I was an alcoholic the day she died, if you want to know the truth. She thought I was having a few problems, and I sure as hell was, I can tell you that. But I miss her terribly. And, you only get one, and when they're gone, let me tell you. And my dad died from this disease on the streets of Chicago in 1979, and you tell me how a major in the Air Force dies on Skid Row. I don't know how that happened, other than the fact he was an alcoholic, and whether he ever found A or not, I did not know. I just know that he certainly did not stay sober as a result of it. And, one more time tonight, this is a cunning, baffling, powerful disease that kills people. This is not a game I'm playing up here. This is serious business, and I would give any world if my father were alive tonight, because we would have one hell of a lot to talk about, I can tell you. I have a sister who was Miss Rah-Rah in high school and homecoming queen and cheerleader and all that kind of crap, and made straight A's, never cracked a book, and I made straight F's, never cracked a book, and that was the difference. My sister was a beautiful little girl. She's a gorgeous woman today. She looks nothing like I do, I got to tell you. And she was a model for many, many years for Neiman Marcus in Dallas, and retired. Now she's teaching school in the West Indies. And I got to tell you guys, as a direct result of this program, I love my sister very, very much tonight. And I recently found out something about her. She's also very beautiful on the inside, too, and I never used to know that. I have a brother who's a pilot in the Navy in Spain who got home from Operation at Desert Storm a couple of years ago. As a matter of fact, 6 months ago tonight, my brother was over Iraq. He's a fighter pilot. And, we were growing up. I thought my brother was such a dork, you guys. I really did. He used to embarrass me, if you want to know the truth. Doesn't drink, doesn't use drugs, doesn't screw around. What an embarrassment he was. And tonight, I got to tell you, I'm so proud of my brother. I can't begin to tell you. You wouldn't catch me over Iraq in the fighter plane, I got to tell you. But neither one of these people are alcoholic. And I have another sister who was married to the public defender in Lincoln, Nebraska, who got me out of a whole lot of trouble when I got sober. And, I'm welcome in their homestay, and I never used to be. I come from basically a very boring family, if you want to know the truth. They're highly successful people, and they bore me to tears, I got to tell you guys. I have a couple of kids who are 38 and 39 years old, and I know I certainly don't look old enough to have kids that age, but by God, I sure do. And this is where it really starts getting interesting for me. These kids are anything but boring, I got to tell you guys. As a matter of fact, they're a couple of jerks, if you want to know the truth. I love my kids very, very much. Please don't get me wrong, but they are indeed a couple of jerks. But, those jerks that give me 5 of the most gorgeous grandkids you've ever seen before in your life. And, I stood in Lincoln, Nebraska 2 years ago tonight. I took grandbaby number 5, a gorgeous baby girl that was born to my son and his wife. And you guys, I got the honor of naming that little girl. I named her Hannah Rose. It's an old family name. And I will guarantee you one thing. Nobody was asked me to name grandbaby 17 years ago. There wasn't any grandbaby 17 years ago, but I wouldn't have asked to name him, I can assure you. And things with my family are very, very good tonight. It's only a direct result of this program, I can assure you. And it took a long time for it to happen. When I was growing up in Nebraska, I was just a disruptive jerk is what I was. Always in trouble, always kicked out of classrooms. I hated discipline. I was very, very rebellious. I really hated people telling me what to do. And I like it even less today, if you want to know the truth. And, I never felt like I belonged anywhere. And I heard that a lot from AA podiums, and I'm right on with that 125%, I got to tell you. I really don't remember my first drink, you guys, but I can tell you that I hope to God I never forget my last one. And I hope it was my last one. But I remember what alcohol did for me from the very beginning. It made me feel like I belonged, and I could be anything I wanted to be. I could do anything I wanted to do. I drank drink at any given opportunity after that, and I was probably about 13 years old. You know, I realize that I'm in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous tonight, and I honor this podium by talking about alcoholism up here. I used a lot of drugs too, made that a small part of my story. My sponsor encourages me to do that. And, you know, when I was growing up in Nebraska, there just wasn't a lot of drugs on the street. But I'll guarantee you I found every single one of those drugs, and you know, there was some marijuana and speed and stuff. And today, if you get caught for possession of marijuana, you get a ticket, big deal. When I was growing up, you went to prison is what happened to you. And that didn't scare me, nothing scared me. I think I wasn't supposed to be doing. I'm one of these alcoholic females, and I hate to say this from an AA podium, but it's precisely the way that it was for me, and we're supposed to tell the truth up here. If you pat me on the head, my pants fall off is what happens to me, and I got myself into a lot of trouble when I was growing up. I absolutely love men. I love everything about them. You name it about, and I love it about them. They've been the downfall of my entire existence, and they remain the same today, I'm sorry to say, and I particularly like sick men, and there's a room full of them here tonight. I can just feel it. That's one thing, girls, I love about Southern California, it's got so many sick men. I'm just entertained around the clock 24 hours a day. I got to tell you guys a funny story. I was in Nashville, Tennessee about 5 years ago giving a talk, and one of the fine ladies of Nashville, Tennessee AA walked up to me afterwards, I want you to know, and this woman just said to me, she said, "You're disgusting." And she wasn't kidding, you guys. She meant every word of it. And I said, "Lady, from where I come from, being disgusting is a step up, I can assure you." And if I wanted you to sponsor me, I'd flown to Nashville and asked you. You know, I hear some women get this podium, and I wonder if they ever drank, you guys. I really do. While they're drinking, and one of them shoots into the keyhole with an eyedropper. I was out there big time. I got myself into a lot of trouble. I've been taught to share that freely in Alcoholics Anonymous. And if I offend anybody in this room tonight, I would never offend anybody in the program that saved my life, I got to tell you. And besides that, my book tells me, and this is my favorite part of our book, it says, cling to the thought that in God's hands, your dark past will be the greatest possession that you have. And it goes on to say, because you can literally divert death and misery for others. And I found this to be very, very true in my sobriety. So if I offend anybody or not, I don't want to hear about it afterwards either. But anyway, I got pregnant when I was 16 years old, and I had to get married. And as it must be, I married an alcoholic. Don't most alcoholic women? I go for colorful, exciting men that beat the hell out of you, all kinds of stuff. And he wasn't even a man, you guys. He was only 17 years old, and I was 16. I couldn't cook, I couldn't clean, I couldn't take care of a baby, nor did I want to take care of a baby. And before we knew, we had 2 babies to take care of. And I quickly found out what caused all that, and I put a halt to it, I'll guarantee you that. And that caused me a lot of trouble throughout the years. And as it must be, I married an individual that refused to work, that drank on a daily basis. He used to come and beat me up on a daily basis, and I had never seen a man hit a woman before in my life, you guys. I'll guarantee you one thing. If my dad would lay one hand on my mom, she'd have knocked him from here to the moon, I got to tell you. And I grew to hate this guy very, very much, and I'm not blaming him for my disease, so please don't get me wrong. It's just part of my story, and I need to share it. And somebody in that family had to get a job, and I didn't even finish junior high yet, for Christ's sakes. And I found a job as a nurse's aide at a hospital there in Lincoln, and the magic was put in my life. I literally fell in love with nursing, and I made a plan to myself. I would love to go to school. I'd love to become a registered nurse. That's what I would love to do. You know, they say that alcoholics don't have willpower, and I'm here to tell you now from this podium that is a bunch of crap. I have more willpower than 20 elephants. When I want to do well, I'm going to do well. I don't have any willpower as far as my disease goes. When I want to do something, I'm going to do it. And I went back, I finished junior high, I finished high school, I went to college full-time for 3 years, and I worked full-time for 3 years. And I'm talking about 18, 20 hours a day, you guys, and that is hard stuff to do. I did not drink, not use any drugs during this period of time. At the age of 27 years old, I became a registered nurse. And if you think I'm proud to stand here tonight and tell you that I got jerked in front of the State Board of Nursing, Nebraska, and they told me, you are a disgrace to your profession, you're a disgrace to nursing, you're a disgrace to medicine, you are no longer working because we just jerked your nursing license. If you think I'm proud of that, you are sadly wrong. You guys, I love my profession. I really, really mean that. And I would never do anything to jeopardize the people I take care of, nor the people I work with in ordinary circumstances. And what I have to tell you tonight is a story about how I threw it right down the toilet so I could drink. And that is total insanity. It's also called alcoholism. At the age of 27 years old, I divorced this man. And girls, I got to tell you that a whole new world opened up to me, and it's called men and alcohol. And I went absolutely hog wild is what I did. I was engaged 8 times during that divorce. I never did marry these people. 2 of them died from alcoholism, for Christ's sakes. You know, I don't know anything about social drinking. I drank, and with alcoholics, and we do indeed die from this. And at the age of 27 years old, old. I went to work in surgery at a hospital there in Lincoln. I had that job for 19 years. I love working in the operating room. I love taking care of those patients. It's a colorful, exciting nursing position. I drank, ran with medical people mostly. They were colorful, intense people. They worked hard and they played hard. And I need to tell you guys that the incidence of alcoholism amongst my profession is tremendously high. And they'll do a lot for your security level if you're going to have surgery next week, but it has to be very, very true. And those people are so grateful that I'm sober that they can't see straight. And I'm talking about alcoholics is what I'm talking about. You know, in our book, Alcoholics Anonymous, says clearly that we're telling in a general way what our drinking was like. You're going to get the general idea real quick about what my drinking was like. I can tell you guys about my drinking in about 5 seconds flat, if you know the truth. Many, many years ago, I was at a little concert in upstate New York called Woodstock. That's exactly what my drinking was like. It was all about Woodstock. That Woodstock they had 3 summers ago was a piece of crap compared to the one I went to. There will never be another Woodstock, trust me on that. The kids from the 60s threw a party that nobody will ever match, I am quite sure. And, you know, New York got when they're going to have this big event, and they told these people, if you don't get medical coverage, you're not going to have this concert. So they started hiring people from the Midwest because they thought it'd be more responsible. And we were a seedy lot, I can assure you. And I was the first alcoholic to sign up for this deal. And find 9 girls I drank with to join me. We met about 80 residents of the East Coast, and there we were at Woodstock. I never seen so much alcohol in one place in my entire life. You could have floated a battleship with it, no problem whatsoever. And the drugs, it was like a candy store, and everybody was sharing narcotics right along with everybody else. And we had a semi in that back lot of Woodstock, and there was our hospital park back there. And I don't recall being in that semi the entire week, but I do recall what it was like to stand from the stage, and I think Richie Havens sang Freedom, and Joe Cocker and Country Joe and Santana, those groups that I love. I come from the roaring 60s, you guys, and I love rock and roll, let me tell you. Things are not changed in my life a little tiny bit. I loved Elvis Presley, and Janis Joplin was my lady, let me tell you. Wouldn't Janis Joplin have been a fine member of Alcoholics Anonymous, you guys? I'd have hung out with Janis, let me tell you. I'd have traded Janis for Clancy any day of the week if you wanted the truth. My AA brother Jimmy's in here, and he's going to blab to Clancy. I said that I just know that he is, but I'm just kidding. I don't really mean that. I wouldn't trade my sponsor for anybody and stuff as I stand here tonight. But, you know, drinking for me at one time was the fun thing, you guys. It'd be a life, and it's not anything but that. But I cannot remember the fun. I remember the pain that it caused me. It almost cost me my life. And I'm going to give you a couple quick drinking stories and get my recovery here. You know, I love the horse races, too. I love everything not supposed to be doing. I've been to the horse races in Omaha, Nebraska with a couple nurses that I worked with. And the girls told me, they said, Karen, the horse race has been over with for 3 hours. We're all drunk. Let's go back to Lincoln. And I said, well, run along. I'd met 2 guys from Council Bluffs, Iowa, and these guys want to take me to a party, and by God, I was going. Like I said, you pat me on the head, and I'll follow you anywhere you want to go. And I really can't tell you much about this party, you know, the guys that I was with. I just know that I woke up out of a blackout on Highway 2 by Palmyra, Nebraska, a little bitty town of about 200 people. And I found out something very interesting out about Palmyra, Nebraska, that they take a dim view of naked women walking on their highways. I found that out. And there I was at 2 o'clock in the morning walking stark naked down the highway, and my high heels carrying my purse, and it was February in Nebraska, and it's a tad bit nippy out there in February, Nebraska to be doing that. Tonight I know why ducks' feathers freeze, I can assure you. And of all the luck, the first person I ran into was a highway patrolman. And, you know, in Nebraska, the cops travel themselves. They don't have a partner. And out here in California, they're a little bit smarter than that. And this guy stops his squad car, and he rolls down his window. He turns on his siren, and he looked at me, and he said, what are you doing? And I thought, well, that's about the stupidest thing I've ever heard anybody say. It's quite obvious what I was doing. He said, lady, you get in this squad car, and you sit down, and don't you touch me. Well, you know, one thing about a person like myself, every time I'm in trouble, I'll do one thing more to make it worse every single time. And I looked at this cop, and I said, I'm not getting your squad car because you might try and rape me. He said, lady, I wouldn't bet any money on it. You are absolutely disgusting is what you are. And I'm here to tell you guys that that made me madder. And he was going on to show you how sick I was. And he had to get a matron out from the Palmyra, Nebraska City Jail to come out there and get me. And that woman was not pleased, I will guarantee you. That woman, they were very, very busy at that downtown jail, and I had time for this foolishness. And I went downtown, booked in that cop's raincoat. You know, cops keep raincoats in the trunks of their car for these occasions. And I went downtown, booked for indecent exposure, for assault and battery, for kicking in his windshield, for hitting her, for hitting him, all the delightful antics that we pull as practicing alcoholics. And I will never forget how humiliating it was to be in that courtroom the very next morning, stand there in my raincoat, when my brother-in-law, the public defender in Lincoln, Nebraska, came walking up to me. And I didn't know he was working there that day. And he said, Karen, have you lost your marbles or what? Why would you do something like this? And you guys, I looked at my brother-in-law, and I was to say this to many, many people in my drinking career in many, many courtrooms. I said, oh, for Christ's sakes, Dennis, this could happen to anybody. You know. And that cost me about $3,000 together, and I just shirked it off like it was no big deal. You're going to drink, these things are going to happen occasionally. But I did learn one thing at that event. I learned one thing I want to share with you. Don't ever drink with men from Council Bluffs, Iowa, when I kept right on drinking. I will never forget what it felt like to wake up in the very hospital that I worked at in surgery, in their emergency room, one more time coming out of a blackout, one more time I'd been to horse races. You know, for a number of years I thought the horse races were my problem. It certainly was not my drinking. And I'm one of these alcoholic females with a big mouth when I drink, and I have a big mouth in sobriety, but I can tell you that pain is a teacher here. It's getting a lot better. And I'd smart some guy at that horse race track, and he belted me right in the teeth is what he did. And a plastic surgeon was putting 18 stitches in my mouth. And I'll never forget this doctor said to me, you guys, as long as I live, I'll never forget this. He said, Karen, we love you so much. What is wrong with you? You're such a good nurse and stuff. We think you're an alcoholic. Let's send you to a treatment center and get this drinking problem taken care of so you can get on with your life here. And you guys, I could not believe the audacity that man had that he would say that to me. And I said, just fix my lip and get out of my face. I'll drink if I want to drink. And that's exactly what I did. And the drunk driving charges and the bad checks, all the stuff that we eventually do. My kids were in trouble. I never could marry these guys I was engaged to. They kept dying from alcoholism. And I thought to myself, I need to get married to my ex-husband again. That's what I need to do. The kids need their father. Besides, I need to get even with him for all the things that he's done to me. And those are not very good reasons to get married again, I got to tell you. And I'm certainly not proud of it as I stand here tonight. And, you know, if anybody in this room is thinking about getting married to the same person twice, don't do it. You're going to be sorry. You know, the only way I can describe it is like taking a bite out of the same turd twice, if you will. But, sorry, that's the way I feel. And I danced that man through 3 of the most miserable years of his life on the face of this earth. And I love to tell you this story, I'm about ready to tell you. And my sponsor always tells me that is not funny, and you should not be telling that from AA podiums. And I said, okay, fine, then I won't tell it anymore. And he said, no, go ahead and tell it, that those people see how sick you really are and how sick you really were and still are. And I'm still sick, and I still think it's funny, and I'm telling the story. When I married him again, I told him, I said, if you ever hit me again, buddy, I'll kill you next time you hit me. And he said, I'll never hit you again ever. And I said, you better see that you don't. And he lied is what he did. And he came home drunk one night. And I happened to be sober this night for some reason. And I'll never know why, because I usually wasn't. And girls, you know what guys do when they come home drunk. They want to take you to bed and stuff. And I was not buying it. If there's anything I can't stand, it's some drunk man mauling me when I'm sober. And I will say that when the shoe's under the foot, though, it's fine with me. And that guy came home and indicated that to me, and I said, you get your hands off me and leave me alone. I wanted nothing to do with him, period. And he broke my arm is what he did. And I'm here to tell you guys that I was pissed. As a matter of fact, I'm still pissed about it, if you want to know the truth. And I told him, I said, you go to sleep on that couch, and so help me God, when you wake up, you're going to wish you'd never been born. And he sat up for hours, you guys, his eyes pried open. And as it must be, he finally passed out. And I started drinking martinis, and this is a classic example of what alcohol did for me. Alcohol told me what to do. I didn't tell it what to do. And I had about 8-10 martinis, and I was feeling no pain, I can assure you. And I was sitting there watching this guy. And I hate to tell you what this man was doing, but I can't tell you the story unless I tell you what he was doing. He was laying on the couch playing with himself. And I thought, you disgusting man, you make me sick to my stomach. And the more I drank, the madder I got. And you guys, you know, I'm a nurse, and I'm very familiar with male anatomy. And I'd be very familiar with male anatomy if I wasn't a nurse. But anyway, I thought to myself, what can I do to get even with this guy for all the things that he's done to me? And I came with this brilliant idea in my drunken stupor. That's one thing we should never do, folks, is drink and think at the same time, I got to tell you. And this is many, many years ago, you guys, when super glue first came out. And super glue was powerful stuff. You don't want to screw around with super glue. I get so excited when I tell this story, I could just do it all over again. But anyway. I went over this man, I poured super glue all over this guy's groin, and I mean everywhere. There was not... There was not one place this man did not have super glue, and I laughed about it and I went to bed. And I woke up in the morning to screams of horror like you could not even believe. And, you know, I did not mean to hurt this guy that bad, and I really, really mean that. But, you know, you guys, I'm telling you something. You know, we had a telephone by our bed there in Lincoln. He called the police, and the cops out in front of our home, and there's sirens going. There was an ambulance out there. The neighbors were gawking out of their windows. And, you know, one thing you got to keep in mind here, they did not see things like this happen in Lincoln, Nebraska. In California, it wouldn't surprise me one bit, but certainly not there. And the cops were laughing, which led me to the whole thing was funny. And they said, lady, are you crazy or what? Why would you do something like this? And you guys, I looked at those cops, and I said, what makes you think that I did it anyway? I was only standing there with glue glue on my hands, for Christ's sakes. And they said, you're under arrest for assault and battery. And I said, you cannot arrest wives in Nebraska for assault and battery against their husbands. I knew better than that. And 2 days later, I got out of jail. I guess I didn't know better than that. And they took that man to the very hospital that I worked at in surgery, and he had to have surgery. And one more time, the whole staff saw what Karen did. And they took me to jail, I might add, and it turned out to be a terrible, terrible thing. Those doctors down in Lincoln couldn't get that glue off, and they had to get 2 surgeons down from Creighton University Medical School in Omaha, Nebraska to get that glue off. And, there's a paper about that at Creighton, and anybody in this room is thinking about going to medical school, you can read about it if you want to. I'd always wanted a paper written about me, but not like this, I got to tell you. And I was sitting in that jail thinking to myself, I am getting the hell out of this marriage. When this guy comes home from the hospital, he's going to glue something to mine shut, and he would have too, I got to tell you. For those of you who don't know this, that happened to a lady in Kentucky about 2 years ago. It was on the national news. I was on the Santa Monica Freeway, but I had a wreck when I heard it. Thought, my God, better her than me, I got to tell you. But anyway. On the brighter side of things or not, you guys, Alcoholics Anonymous really does work because we have an amends step in this program. And my sponsor made me get on an airplane and fly to Sacramento, California and make amends to my ex-husband where he currently lives. And I tried to tell my sponsor I'm not sorry that I did that. Therefore, I don't have to make the amends. He said, get up there and make those amends and do what I tell you to do. Maybe one of these days you will be sorry. And I don't tell anybody in this room tonight, when that guy sees me, he kind of backs up, I got to tell you. But we're able to sit down and talk and stuff, and I made my amends to him. And I will tell you guys, I walked away from that man. I was free what I had done to him. I was free of being married to him twice. And I will tell you that the promises in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous started coming true in my life when I made those amends. So I know if this thing works, you just got to do it for it to work. The next 5 or 6 years of my life, you guys, were total hell, let me tell you. I found myself still in drugs at the hospitals I was working at and stuff, and I eventually lost that nursing license. I went up on Skid Row in Lincoln, and I literally could not believe that last day of my drinking. I literally could not. Never once did I want to be like this, let me tell you. And, I passed out in the streets is what happened to me, and I woke up in an intensive care ward at the very hospital that I was born at, the very hospital that I worked at for 19 years, and I will tell you guys clearly that the alcoholic hell for me started the day I got sober. I'm not a very big person. I only weighed 95 pounds a day I got sober, and I was coming off a quart or whatever a day and 200 milligrams of Valium a day. That is a lot of booze, that's a lot of pills, and I had a lot of dying to, let me tell you. They say that most alcohol withdrawal is over with in 3 days, and perhaps it is for some people. It certainly was not for me. It was going to be a long, long time before I was going to start feeling better. And I laid in that intensive care ward. I had tubes coming out of my belly. They were draining fluid off my liver. I had IVs going, and I found myself on withdrawal that was so bad I cannot begin to tell you guys. And I laid in that intensive care ward, and I shook, and I shook, and I died for 30 solid days. And I'd scream at those nurses to get me some drugs, and they wouldn't do that. But let me tell you what they would do. They got me about 10 members of Alcoholics Anonymous to come and sit with me. I am forever grateful, let me tell you. I owe this program a tremendous debt as I stand here tonight. One I'll never be able to pay back, I can assure you. All I can do is try and pay it back on a daily basis. And I literally fell in love with these people, and I'll tell you why. There was nobody in my life the day I got sober. My family wanted nothing to do with me. They've been through it too many times, and I'm going to go through it one more time. And at 30 days of sobriety, I walked in that official treatment room at that hospital. I'm a product of a treatment center. I have no opinion on one way or the other, but apparently I went to a fine one because all they talked about was Alcoholics Anonymous. And let me tell you what I was like when I was 30 days sober. I turned on you like you could not even believe when you started telling me what to do. I needed you so desperately on day one. But 30 days there was a whole different ballgame, let me tell you. And, I went through treatment. A lot of people got kicked out of treatment for fraternizing. I didn't. Nobody must have fraternized an orange person, I can assure you. And they used to bring the patients over to my room, and they'd say, look at her, see what's going to happen to you if you keep on drinking, look at her. And I thought, how dare you bring people in my room and say stuff like that? But you know what, you guys, in retrospect tonight, I'm glad they did it. It's just one more little thing I get to think about before I pick up any drink, I got to tell you. But anyway, I did not do well in that treatment center. I was in an inpatient 30-day program for 7 months as a direct result of my smart-ass mouth and stuff. And, I found myself a very, very active member of Alcoholics Anonymous in Lincoln, Nebraska eventually. I wasn't doing one thing the way we teach people in AA to do it. I would tell the new people, you don't need to read the book and you don't need to sponsor. We can do what we want to do around here. This is an individual program. And I rapidly went through 19 sponsors in that town. And you can pull your crap out of here just for so long. And these old-timers are going to start nailing you one right after the other. God loved the mean old-timers in Alcoholics Anonymous. They literally saved my life, and they are dying off right and left, I got to tell you guys. And they have taught me well, and I'll be eternally grateful, I got to tell you. But this old guy with 29 years of sobriety grabbed me out of an AA meeting one day, and he said, come outside, I want to talk to you. He said, you stay away from new people. He said, you're like a typhoid Mary in AA. Everybody dies around you, but you're able to stay sober somehow. He wanted to tell me there's going to be a man from California speaking in Kearney, Nebraska this weekend. His name is Clancy. This man's speaker, and ask this man if he will sponsor you. He is a master at dealing with jerks like you. And I heard all about Clancy, and I wanted nothing to do with with him, period, because I knew I was going to be in bad, bad trouble. And I can tell you that my fears have been justified 8,000 times over. But anyway, I found myself in Kearney, Nebraska, and I will tell you guys from a podium in Kearney, Nebraska, that man literally put the magic of Alcoholics Anonymous in my life. My life has never been the same since that talk. And I found myself asking that man to be my sponsor. And he eventually agreed to do that and stuff. And one of the first directions he gave me, I want you to get that nursing license back. You know, I tried to tell him I have that kind of humiliation. He said, quit arguing with me. Get the State Board of Nursing Nebraska. Tell those people that you've been sober in AA for a year and a half. You'd like the opportunity to get your nursing license back. And you guys, I knew it wasn't going to work, but I did it anyway. And that's without a doubt the most important thing I can say in this room tonight. I did what my sponsor asked me to do, whether I thought it would work or not. And I asked them for my license back. And they looked at me like I had just grown horns on the top of my head, I can assure you. And they said, how many links are you willing to go to? And I had to do a lot, you guys. I had to take crap off people for 2 years that I wouldn't hire to mow my own lawn, if you know the truth. And I had to keep my mouth shut in the process, too. And one of the happiest days of my life occurred 12 years ago last April, when one more time I was stripped in front of the State Board of Nursing Nebraska, and what they told me, brought in my knees for the first time in Alcoholics Anonymous. They said, welcome home, you're fully reinstated as a registered nurse. And that is a gift from AA. No, please. I had nothing to do with it. That was your deal, not mine. Without you, I never would have made it. And I give all the credit to Alcoholics Anonymous. But, you know, I told my sponsor on the phone one day, I want to move to Southern California. I want to live on that crazy Venice beach with all those crazy people. I knew I'd feel like a glove, and I've been wrong about that either. I want to belong to the Pacific Group. I want to work at UCLA in the operating room. I want to be in two of their transplant teams, their heart and liver transplant teams. I want this and I want that. And every single one of those things have come true for me. And those are all gifts from AA. I don't deserve it, but I intend to take it, I got to tell you. And, you know, people say to me all the time, why do you keep doing it, Karen? Why do you keep doing it? And I know of no greater thing to say to them than what our 12th tradition says, long form, so that this to the end, that my great blessings may never spoil me. I may forever live in thankful contemplation of him who presides over us all. And I'm going to say one more thing, and I'm going to shut my mouth here. It has been one hell of a walk from Skid Row in Nebraska to where I stand in Malibu, California tonight. And I think that but for the grace of God and Alcoholics Anonymous, I would have missed it all. Thank you for having me, and thank you for my life.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.